Alright guys, it's finally time for me to do a full review of my favorite Tales game of all time. Yeah, believe it or not, it's the infamous Tales of Legendia. So is it really the masterpiece that I remember? Or am I being blinded by nostalgia? Lots of questions, right? But the true question is, it's 2025. Is Tales of Legendia really worth playing? We're about to find out, so let's begin. This is the 10th main title in the Tales series, released in Japan on August of 2005. Only North America will see a localization on February of 2006. The game was never released in Europe. What you probably already know is that this was a unique title where some key figures in the Namco Tales studios wouldn't work on. The director was one Yuichiro Sadahiro, a very unknown figure in the industry. Writers were Go Tanaka and Koki Matsumoto, also a pair of unknowns. So basically the lead team who designed this game wasn't the usual, but rather one called Project Melphis, which included members of the Soul Calibur and Tekken series. This is the reason why Legendia feels a bit different from any other Tales game out there. It's not what makes it my favorite though. What does is primarily because it was the first Tales game I ever played, but also because it feels special, perhaps due to its beautiful soundtrack or its strong and emotional character development, or is it also because of its battle system, graphics, and gameplay mechanics? Maybe I've always been biased with this game, but it's been almost 2 decades since I became a big fan of it. Do I still feel the same way about it? Did it age well? Is it still the masterpiece that I remember? But the big question though, not just for me but for everybody else out there, will be, is it really worth playing? Let's check it out. Tales of Legendia conveys the story of a world completely covered in water. People live in a gigantic continental ship called the Legacy, but soon it is revealed that there is also a small mainland not too far away. So maybe this game is post-apocalyptic and sci-fi? Well, you're gonna have to play it to find out. The protagonist is Senel, who travels with his adoptive sister Shirley from the mainland to the Legacy. Now, in this world, there are 3 kinds of people. Orerines, who are basically the humans, Fairiness, who look a bit like elves and believe Shirley is their chosen one that's here to save them, but between both races, there are the Erins, like Senel here, who are capable of using the power of the Eris, which are basically the Artes in any Tales game out there. As soon as Senel and Shirley are about to arrive though, one of the Fairiness kidnaps her, and so starts Senel's quest to go and rescue her, but also to get acquainted with life and culture on the Legacy. The story's fine with some very interesting lore and, well, you know the Tales games. They start being about one thing and near the end of the game the plot has substantially changed. Legendia is no different. So while I love the story and narrative, I wouldn't say it's one of the highlights. The character development definitely is, since it focuses way too much on it rather than on anything else, especially because this game is divided into 2 story arcs. The first one, which follows the plot I mentioned, and the second one, which is called Character Quest, long episodes that focus on every single one of the game's 8 protagonists. You might think because of this that Legendia is a very long game. Well, not really. The first arc can be completed in less than 20 hours if you stick to the main story alone. The second arc is about the same, so it's basically a 40-hour long game ignoring optional stuff. The gameplay is like in any other Tales game out there that came before and after it. Traditional, that means it's got the town-to-town linear progression with dungeons, ruins, forests, and of course the overworld in the middle. Controls during exploration feel fine even for the somewhat chibi models you see here. The colors though look absolutely beautiful, duly noting the backgrounds and surroundings. Of course, I'm upscaling the game. Back in the PS2 era, 20 years ago, the game didn't look this good. Anyway, the character designer is Kazuto Nakazawa, who has a long history of interesting works, including the animated video for a Linkin Park song. Characters though, when seen in full body, look very slim, almost skinny, which is an interesting take on the design. It contrasts the chibi 3D models for the in-game graphics, but not necessarily in a bad sense. But anyway, lovely visuals here. Sadly, the first complaint everyone has, including me, is the overworld exploration. Dungeons and towns are fine. You do get lost a bit every now and then, but it's honestly rare. However, moving around in the world map is kinda slow for no justifiable reason. It's like you're moving in slow motion or like the game is lagging a bit. Add random encounters to that and it sure will take you a long time to get from point A to point B. The rate isn't that high though, I'd say it's mostly balanced, but of course because of the slow movement it feels extremely high. Luckily you'll unlock fast travel between towns and dungeons at their entrances in no time. Trust me, these help a hell of a lot so you won't have to deal with the overworld exploration that much. You might miss certain skits though, especially ones that are linked to this or that corner or certain small cabins you'll find out there. Yep, this game also has skits, but with the character portraits in full view over a square like in previous Tales games. About half of them are fully voiced. Oh, that's right, the English dub, we gotta talk about that. It isn't as bad as people say. It's alright and you'll get used to it, but I admit it's not exactly great either. And no, the game does not come with the original Japanese dub. Alright, most of the towns are regular size, but the main one is huge and it'll take you a while to memorize where is what. NPCs, inns and shops are there, where you can buy healing items, weapons and armor. Yeah, the classic limited inventory from all Tales games is also present here, which only makes the game more difficult, but we'll get to that later. Your equipment consists of weapon, armor, hat, and 2 accessories. And of course the character titles that they get after story scenes or skits, which may alter stats a bit. This is a characteristic that is featured across all Tales games, just like the cooking. Shops are there to buy ingredients and the chef giving you recipes whenever you find her, but you can also get ingredients after battle. Remember that every meal comes with a few buffs or stat increases, but it's only temporary. Obviously, as you advance, your characters will learn native skills. You can turn them on and off at the menu if you want them to specialize in only a bunch of them. This is so they don't use low-level skills that are useless against enemies at later levels. Don't forget that, again, just like in any other Tales game, you can control anybody you want and equip 4 of their skills known as Eris here to each key of the D-pad. However, magic spells, known as Crystal Eris, can only be learned by acquiring Eris stones. These are given to you automatically after every battle dropped by the monsters, and their type obviously depends on the monster type. After getting enough of 2 or more types, your casters will unlock a new magic spell. There's also Compound Eris, but these are basically combos you have to set up manually in the menu of each character. Really useful to get you out of tricky situations. Exploring the dungeons feels natural, the design is good, rarely feeling exhausting or anything, but it does have some long as hell areas that can be quite unnerving. You'll also get random encounters as well as treasure chests and a few puzzles. These puzzles can be tough, and you'll have to brainstorm a lot quite early in the game for some of them. I found most of them fun, but as always, there are some utterly annoying ones. Then there are these bubbles. If you get inside, your reward will vary between a chest, a shortcut, or a dangerous battle. You're just gonna have to take a risk and enter if you want to. The rest is pretty self-explanatory. Let's talk about the combat now. It's completely in 2D as you can see, with up to 4 characters in battle. The interface is classic Tales of. You can pause the game by bringing up the menu to use an item or change an ally strategy, etc. The usual stuff. But yeah, you fight in 2D. That means you can only move in 4 directions. Yeah, you can jump and attack only in 2. It's cool that you can see the enemy's HP in a circular bar to know when they're about to die. That counts for the bosses too. I hate when bosses don't have a visible HP bar in any video game whatsoever. How are the controls, you ask? A bit stiff, but responsive nonetheless. I'm not gonna say they aged poorly, but also not exactly marvelously either. Even almost 20 years ago when I first played it, they felt the same way. Fighting can be addicting as a result, but eventually tiresome since you do get into a lot of battles. And let me warn you right off the bat, this game is hard. There are no difficulty settings whatsoever. It's got several spikes, but nothing ridiculous that can't be overcome with some grinding. I wouldn't call it a grindfest though, but it can get a bit grindy somewhat often. It's not as hard as, I don't know, Tales of Graces or, you know what, even Arise. But yeah, it's up there as one of the hardest, keep that in mind. Victory spoils and experience can be increased depending on how well you did during every battle. There's the usual grade system after all, also seen in other Tales games. And oh yeah, you still have victory quotes here, most of them being very fun and memorable. Now, you're probably wondering about that blue bar above the character portraits. It's called Climax. You fill it up by fighting and doing damage. Once full, you can activate it to freeze the entire battlefield for several seconds, and then you can attack as much as you can without being interrupted. It feels great because in this game, the enemies can often stun you or interrupt your attacks easily. It's frustrating. It is the only thing I hate passionately about this combat, how often this happens, destroying your combos entirely. So, in the end, I don't think this combat is bad. I actually like it a lot, but I'm aware of its flaws. I'm aware of its questionable controls and how it didn't age as well as it should have considering it's in 2D. I've got more love than hate for it though. I really do believe the criticism towards this combat is exaggerated out there. The music is simply a masterpiece. It wasn't done by Motoi Sakuraba, but rather by Go Shina, and boy, it's just beyond beautiful in some places. Some of the dungeons and towns have this combination of piano, violins and cellos that sound as if it was an orchestra, quite within a classical style, but there's also some jazz and blues involved. What an irony that it's got what I think of as the best soundtrack ever in a Tales game, and it wasn't even done by the usual composer of the series. As a matter of fact, I believe the music helps a heck of a lot with the immersion of the game, especially those tragic, emotional, or straight up dark scenes and moments the characters go through. I just don't think they will have the same impact if they were done by Motoi Sakuraba. Not to shit on that guy, of course, you know I'm a big fan of him as well. I'm just saying the game's story and character development shines way more than usual, and I have the music to thank for that. I think the answer to the video's question is definitely yes. This is still worth playing nowadays, despite its notorious flaws. Not everybody will be able to get into it, which is fine, but I'm glad the hatred and rejection for it has been reduced over the years. I'll admit it's not the masterpiece I thought it was anymore. I'm sure I was a bit blinded by nostalgia all this time. The overworld exploration is an issue, the random encounters are another, the difficulty and the combat can be frustrating, so yeah, I know it's not perfect. I guess the right term for this beautiful and nostalgic game will be a flawed masterpiece. Most Tales fans will disagree with me strongly, but I don't care. It's still my favorite, and it's not just out of nostalgia. Its uniqueness, its character development, its lore, its impactful, tragic, and highly emotional moments, the tears I shed in a couple of scenes. It's definitely a game that hits hard and also hits home. This will always have a very important place in my heart, and I'll probably treasure it forever until my dying breath.